Why? Hello and welcome everybody. Also good morning. It's been a solid maybe month or so. Today we have a giant reveal from Path of Exile 2 and also another partial reveal for the Righteous Fire fans. So without further ado, let me just go ahead and jump right on into this one part that was clipped on the live stream so you guys can see. This is part of the 1 hour live stream, a little bit more for the Path of Exile 2 reveal, and they happened to tease this weapon. And this weapon is unfortunately a minion-related weapon. I bring that up because we've already had a spoiler about our Righteous Fire skill, which was Infernal Legion, which is, the minion Righteous Fire. Now we have another one.
Slows on the more powerful, for maximum crowd control. That's not where this item shines though. It grants a skill called Spiraling Conspiracy. This skill causes a flock of ravens to circle you, dealing damage over time to anything near them. Killing enemies, or just by standing near unique enemies, causes the flock to grow, getting larger and larger. For your PoE 1 players, you can think of this just like a Raven Righteous Fire. That's not all, however. These ravens are also minions, so they fully scale with minion damage and come with their own command skill, Mad Flight. This command skill causes your flock to create a tunnel of deathly damage between a set of illusory mirrors, obliterating anything in between.
So that was pretty much it for it. Overall, for people who are interested in a Righteous Fire style skill, they now officially kind of had one. There is Infernal Legion, and Infernal Legion does exist. I've played a bit on stream, but the AoE is really small. And then there's been like all the weird scuff stuff that have kind of popped out, like the Righteous Fart. I think Crypt made a video about it. This is probably the closest one to it, but I'm still sad that it's kind of tied to the minion archetype, because it means we're not using our normal, I would say, kit of how we would play the build. We are into the minion archetype, so I find myself, I'll definitely play it. I think I'm going to play it as a second character because I want to try something else first, which is most likely playing through my Permafrost Witch Hunter that I played a lot in SSF. I made a really expansive build guide for it on MOBA, and I'm probably going to start this character again, refine the guide, and then when I find the drop, I'm probably going to go ahead and re-roll into it. Maybe plans change, but I just don't want to start as a minion build already not really enjoying it and then play the, convert to the minion Righteous Fire and then not really like it. So I'd rather have it more of a second character. So that's kind of how I plan to approach the new league. With that being said, let's talk about the updates. This is a massive update, so we're going to go ahead and start from this page here with Path of Exile 2 Ancients and kind of go through it. So one of the cool things now is the Atlas is completely reworked. It visually looks a lot more pleasing. The way you traverse it is a little different, and for people who always got gated by RNG, you don't have to worry. Things are now in fixed locations at the start. So what does that mean? That means normally you would enter the Atlas and you may have to venture X amount before you find your first big map. What are they called? The guys who would drop the fragments to go fight Arbiter. These are now in fixed locations at the start, so you can't screw that up. And also the league mechanics now are visually on there as well, and we'll talk about that as we go further. So there is this fortress mechanic, which is beyond the walls. You can see here that you have the wall here that you kind of have to go ahead and enter. I'm not going to talk too much about that. We're going to go into kind of like the other stuff here, such as the reshaped Atlas tree. Now, the reshaped Atlas tree is pretty interesting here, primarily because what this new tree offers is the ability to acquire every single node on the Atlas as you acquire your completion points. However, some of them will make it like this. So you can have, basically you have to pick one or two of them. And I think that that's really nice because it's kind of lame to be able to unlock everything in my opinion, but being able to have a choice is still important, right? So the fact that you can unlock everything, but there's still going to be some customization between other players, I think is a big win. I'll definitely have to play it out and see kind of how I feel about that. Also for players who are like, there's too many objectives here, look at all the points. There's kind of like a catch-up mechanic. If you're strong enough to go and fight into the end game, there's a catch-up mechanic where you can like kill a specific boss, I believe it is, and it'll unlock the other points for you. So don't think you have to like go back and do every single one. Don't worry about that. I know that maybe wasn't explained the best, but it'll get explained better. Over here is, I don't know if this is the new Pinnacle boss, I forgot. Again, a lot of information. There are a lot of new boss fights though, kind of crazy, an incredible amount of boss fights. So that's also going to be pretty sick. PoE 2, I think, really does boss fights well. The only ones I don't like about PoE 2 are the ones who are kind of like the Katava-like ones, if you know what I'm talking about. Their hitboxes can be a bit weird. Speaking of the Atlas, we're not done. The Atlas now has these, I guess you could call them classes. So these 3 people will assign you quests. You go and you do the quest and you unlock a point, and I believe you can change them at any point in time. So there's like 4 levels of difficulty, and then it's as simple as to click again. So if you want to use a specific loadout for a map, on your UI you'll just be able to click, and then you just instantly can shift to that and you don't really have to worry. So one example of one of the masters here that I really like is Stitch the Flesh. It's the first one. Your maps have an additional revival. I think this is really important because sometimes you're doing the rippiest maps you can and you have no portal for safety. And maybe, God forbid, you sneeze. And because you sneezed, an on-death effect popped underneath you, or like a mob hit you from off screen, something that normally would have been avoidable is now not avoidable, and you die and you can't get your loot. So I think this will be a really good one just in general for players for comfiness. And as you go down, there are some very, very cool ones. We can't see all of them yet. Like possessed unique monsters release spirits on death. Kind of interesting. I don't know if I like my powerful map boss, but I mean, nonetheless, it's cool. 25% chance for a rare mob to be replaced by a random map boss. A lot of very interesting ones. 50% increased exceptional item. A lot of cool stuff. We have 2 new ascendancies coming in, so there aren't any new classes and there are no new weapon types. We are getting a monk ascendancy, which is the martial artist, which has one of their skills. If you actually look at them in this demo here, they stand still, so it's stationary, which people aren't gonna like. But while you're stationary, you summon clones that use the skill that I guess you trigger with it, which is actually, I think, a pretty neat way to go about channeling if it's done correctly. It also has specialty specifically for unarmed, so that's another nice thing. And then there is the Spirit Walker. Now, I'm not a big fan of minions, but I do like the idea of companions. And I know some people would say, well, what's the difference? To me, the difference between a companion and a minion is the companion, you still have the ability to do damage yourself. Now, whether or not that's actually gonna be how it plays out, we don't actually know, but I think it's cool to have a minion alongside you, buffing you and maybe assisting you in some way while you're doing something. And that's kind of, again, where this comes in. They made changes specifically to companion, where I think now it does a lot more damage in general. The Spirit Walker as well, if you look here in this footage, they can actually raise bosses. So like here, there's the Crowbell. Like the Crowbell is on their side fighting. It's just kind of a cool theme, right? So I think thematically, it's a really cool idea. Then we have the actual League mechanic, the Ruins of Aldur. I don't know what to compare this to. Maybe like Crucible. Basically, there's going to be these like pods. You click them, it spawns a bunch of mobs. You have a choice on what you select, which is what buffs the mobs. Then you get like these little fragments that you put in, and then you can see recipes like bestiary to craft specific, like League-specific items. So prime example of that would be like this, right? You can see like creating Greater Regal, Greater Chaos, and this is all saved, so you don't have to look anything up, right? That's what's really nice about it. Some really cool stuff, though. I'm not gonna lie. I think this would be great for SSF. Like level 20 uncut gems, really nice. Going on a little further, we now have Verisium. So if you think of PoE 1 Verisium, that like shiny blue thing, you can now add this onto gear. And what this does is on low level items, I think you need Verisium plus some of the other currency. It will upgrade them, massively increasing the, I don't know if it's just the base damage and other stats. You can also apply it to gear to add another defensive layer called Ward. Now, Runic Ward, I want to say, is different than Ward in PoE 1. Where I believe it differs is it's kind of like a failsafe. So Ward in Path of Exile 1, when you get hit, you lose all of it. I want to say in PoE 2, it applies after your life pool. So if you were to die, that's when the Ward would kind of kick in. I kind of almost wonder if this is like a stealth buff to the evasion playstyle. I'm curious how that plays out. Now, on top of this, there are the new Kalguuran skills. These skills, I think they said there's like 40 of them. I don't know if that's combined between the supports and the active gems. These skills specifically have two neat functions. Number one, they have no attribute cost, so you don't have to worry about attribute requirements when using these or increasing the total amount of stats required of your other gems. Number two, they require Runic Ward to cast. So you're not using your typical mana resource, you're using that other defensive layer that maybe a lot of people don't even use as a defensive layer, they're just using it as a resource. So I thought that was pretty interesting there. Next up is the start of all of the reworks of our existing league mechanics. Expedition received a very hefty rework. So if we just read here in the endgame, the existing Expedition League mechanic has been updated to incorporate the new remnants unlocking advanced crafting inscriptions. Be wary as the empowerments the remnants grant make encounters significantly more challenging, though the rewards are well worth the risk. And these are exclusive runes that you can put in your gear. I think they said there's over 100 new runes, which is kind of crazy, across all the different things. You can also now, when you get a logbook, logbooks are now used on your atlas. You get to a spot with like water on your atlas, and you basically, or maybe it's like a boat, you put the logbook on, and you basically can now expand into the ocean, which is, I think, just a really cool theme. And you can actually see right here how they are expanding out into the ocean. So logbooks are now no longer just a static thing. They now open up a wide amount of areas which have bosses, new biomes, just a bunch of random stuff, right? Also bosses. Did I say bosses? 5 new Kalguuran bosses specifically. Here are some of the items. As a prime example, we're just going to hover over them. That boss looks sick. Also, that zoom looks crazy good. Twisted Empyrean Aberrant Sledge. Starborn Onslaught. What is this? Build up glory by freezing or chilling enemies. When you have maximum glory, you may jump backwards, loosening your mace with the force of a falling comet onto your target. The impact releases fissures and causes stars to fall in the area for a brief period. Then we have the start of Delirium. So this is the Raven and the Hare. Delirium now has, I don't remember exactly what these are, but there are these new little notches on the Delirium bar. And furthermore, I think this thing is telling you how far you are from exiting the Delirium. Basically, there's an indicator now that shows you if the Delirium is going to end soon before it's about to end. I think that has something to do with this. So that's one thing to note. Consuming a strange fruit draws a pall, I've never heard of that word, pall of fog across the atlas, its shroud thickening with each step forward in time. This descent gives rise to a simulacrum, a twisted echo of one's memory. Overcome the insanity to earn the passage to the Raven Trickster's domain. Now, I don't know if they did this last league, but I noticed there's no fog around the actual character. There's fog in the surrounding areas, but not on the character, which is a really nice buff overall to visual clarity. I'm really happy that that's a thing. Next up, we have Distilled Emotions. There are new types of Distilled Emotions now. I think they come from the new, I don't know if it's the new Simulacrum, the Empowered thing. Later on into Delirium, you have new ones. So for example, this Anoint grants 2 additional skill slots. I think skill slots are really good, personally. Skill slots are kind of sick. My build specifically, like, maxes out on skill slots, so having something like this would be nice in general. We're going to get to some other really cool stuff as well. There's just so much as well. Let's just kind of go through a little bit. This is, I think, the big Delirium boss now. Spoiler, we're not going to go too much on there. This is actually where it shows the Raven's Flock, which was the item we showed right at the beginning, for people who are curious. Scrolling down a little bit more, we have the massive Breach rework, Waking Up the Dreamer. The Breach has now basically turned into Breach from PoE 1. So a lot of people are going to like it, a lot of people are going to dislike it. You now have the Breach timer at the bottom. When you fully complete your Breach, it stabilizes and you kill the extra mobs. We have a crazy expansive Genesis tree. Yeah, words cannot describe the Genesis tree. It is fully respecable, completely for free. And there are new base types exclusive to the Genesis tree. I think one of them might be like, I don't know if I'm wrong, the Tormented Grip, the Corona Amulet. A lot of stuff on here. For people who don't understand how this works, basically you do a Breach. When you do the Breach, you get Hive Blood. You will occasionally, I believe, drop these Womb Gifts. and then you can use these on your tree to grow equipment, accessories, currency, etc. Then we have the ritual rework. The ritual rework was also expansive. The biggest change to ritual is you now only find omens and unique items in your rituals. So no longer are you sifting through like every piece of gear. Another thing is with that excess tribute, normally that would be wasted. Now there are no more splinters from ritual, and instead, with the remaining tribute, you click offer tribute to the king, and when your bar is full, you fight the boss. Honestly, a really nice rework. I think it was greatly needed. I could not stand parsing through every single item in ritual. I know you can set up a loot filter for it. It's just very FOMO inducing that you're constantly missing something. I think this just makes it a lot easier to sift through. Also a lot easier to find unique items, specifically like maybe mid and low level ones that are good for SSF, right? Mage Blood is being introduced. We don't know much about it. This is one of the things I believe on the Atlas as well, is you will see league mechanics on here, not just for this, but in general. The Atlas now has a very clear direction of where you want to go if you're trying to do something specific. On top of this, we are also getting 30 new maps, which is always nice, as, you know, a large amount of the maps, unfortunately, in PoE 2 are still... They're getting better. They are getting better, but they're just not all enjoyable to run, I'd say. 40 plus unique items, as we've already shown quite a few of them. And then for people who... Oh, also voices. Yeah, it goes up to 4 passives, I think. Another thing, for people who enjoy it, challenges are working their way to PoE 2. For people who don't know what these are in-game challenges you can do to receive free armor or microtransactions for your character that persist throughout all the leagues. So for people who play a lot and maybe, you know, don't have the money to put in because they got to pay for their food, right? This is one way where you can put in your time and get a free cosmetic, which is nice, like the whole set. They have streamlined the campaign, and what streamlining the campaign means in this context is, you ever played PoE 1 and you'll notice certain tells that kind of guide you? One example is like when you're in Act 2 and you're in the Western Forest and you're looking for Alira the Bandit, and you see the crumbled road that breaks off and that leads you to Alira. That's a prime example. They're now making these little, not shortcuts, but tells that'll help you go from place to place. Whereas at first, maybe a lot of people might say that doesn't really help me that much. Over time, this will drastically shorten the campaign time for you. More importantly, it will prevent you from hitting those sluggish dead ends. And I know a lot of people are going to say, why don't they just shrink the campaign? Look, I'm in agreement of some places. Some places are still far too big. But at least if there's a way I can just use a simple trick for the zones I don't like, right? You know, what is the one where Adziri, you know, maybe the one before that or that one constantly get lost, right? So, you know, when you can find a little way that, oh, I see, you know, the person's hand is, you know, in a certain direction, I go that way, right? Just, I think things like this really kind of make the game more enjoyable. I never really thought about it at first, but thinking about how many of these little tricks I use in PoE 1 to go through stuff, it just makes it more enjoyable. You know you're not going towards a dead end. Here's another crazy one. Content creators like myself are going to have a lot more work for basically no more pay. GDG is now adding an in-game build planner where you can import a file that will overlay the skill tree path you need to take and allow you to put notes on basically almost anything. So you hover over your weapon slot and it gives a little TLDR. So that's honestly really, really cool. I'm hoping that there's a way you can easily just import it or export it. So like you put your build in path of building and then you can just export it to a file. That would be honestly really easy, because then you don't, like, as content creators, we don't have to do a lot more work. I'll still put in, obviously, like, I like putting in the fine details, but you know, it is what it is. We have more quality of life features, such as being able to search in our Atlas and have it real time actually pop up, which is really, really nice. We're also getting the fragment stash tab, which holds everything. All of your fragments of all of your bosses. It's also holding the stuff to ascend. What is it called? The Birya or whatever it's called, the ultimatum thing. It's just holding all of your tablets. So much quality of life here in the stash tab. And then we've got the supporter packs. I'm not going to go through it, but You can play it on the 29th. I'll be doing probably an 18-hour stream, maybe 24-hour stream on the 29th. So if you want to hang out, you know where to go. But that is pretty much it for me for the day. I hope you guys had a wonderful time. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. If you did, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, you can catch me streaming live every day but Sundays at twitch.tv/